Hello, everybody. My name is Lauren Wilde, and I will be your host of this podcast, now known as Awaken with Lauren Wilde. This podcast has been previously known as Weaving the Wild, and then even before that was the Church Witch Project. It has taken many iterations, much like myself, and I wanted to share a little bit about it and what we're going to be doing in this podcast. Before we get started, though, I just want to tell you how excited that I am that we have new days and the ability to be reborn and to die and to shed identities and to be able to transform and transmute the darkest times into light and luminosity again. And my friends, that is a lot of what has happened to me over the last 3 months. I've been calling it the summer of sickness. And let's go ahead and kind of get into that. So today at the recording time, which is August the 5th of 2024, the South Node is on my sun in Libra, 7 degrees of Libra, for the first time in 18 years. And as you know, I'm an astrologer. The language that I speak is star and spirit stuff. That's just what I speak and translate for people. And I knew that the South Node on my sun and Mercury was going to be the death of something in my career. I did not fully understand exactly what that was going to be because, when we're working with the nodes, which are the shadows of the eclipses of the moon, we're talking about karma and we're actually talking about fate. It is what is known as Rahu and Ketu, Ketu being the tail of the dragon. It's karma. It's things that we're meant to complete and bring into completion. And for me, that has been slowly and surely building around the utilization and working with the word and concept of being a witch. And about 2 years ago, when I had my North Node return, I had my nodal return in Taurus, I knew that this was coming. And I have grown more and more okay with it because, in my opinion, the definition of a witch is rebellion. And if that is what it is, well, then I'm definitely a witch. That's not going anywhere. And probably every single person that's listening to this. This is really and truly about the completion of my work, teaching, translating, and transmitting particular kinds of magic and teachings, particularly through the lens of Lilith, the archetype of Lilith. She is always my homegirl. I have deep reverence for Lilith and the dark goddess. I am not moving fully into like the love and light community. I promise I don't have the capacity for that. But I am really and truly moving forward in a way that is not so much about sharing my story anymore. It's about helping other people share theirs. And that's been really important for me to slowly but surely understand as a multi-passionate spiritual entrepreneur, as well as a teacher, a coach, and a mom. And that's like a lot of things, to try to take care of, especially during a divorce and COVID like that. It's been quite tumultuous for most people, but definitely for myself. And so what I recognize is coming to the end and the completion of what was my Kundalini awakening and helping other people move through their spiritual awakenings as well, moving forward. And so without getting too sideways and talking too much about the specifics of my life, I want to talk a little bit about what I have learned, how I think that could be helpful for any listener, and then where I'm wanting to go. So I have absolutely learned that consciousness requires a pretty dynamic and significant pendulum swing all the way to the extreme of one opposition to another to grow. And what I mean by that is that I went from, lay pastor, wanted to be a head pastor, all the way into witch. And that is a huge story in itself. If you're interested in hearing that story, please go back and start at the very beginning of my podcast when it was known as the Church Witch. And that was about me deconstructing from Christianity. But I mean, it's applicable for anybody going through any form of high control, leaving any high control religion. I mean, patriarchy in general for that matter, but that's another conversation we'll have on another podcast. But it required me to lean all the way into the polar opposite for me to find the medium, the middle, especially as a Libra. And so it's really and truly taken me all of the last 7 years to work my way through my spiritual awakening. And I can honestly say at this point, I have so much deep reverence and gratitude for the full spectrum of the awakening experience. I will always love and revere the dark. I feel like I'm the most comfortable in the dark. But I know that my guidance team, my spiritual calling, and my work is really calling me to move in a more fluid way towards learning how to become a conduit and a channel for the downloads that the world and human consciousness is experiencing through this global awakening. And what that requires is for me to be a little bit more open and global, and to work on really trying to make myself a little bit more accessible to people that don't just identify as witches. And so because of that, I've been slowly but surely kind of widening my circle of influence without trying to get in the wrong lane. And that has been hard because I recognize that no matter what, my lens is very much feminine consciousness. I practice Tantra, I teach Tantra, which is the yogic lens of polarity. That is, we are all things masculine, feminine, no gender, no genitalia. It's an expression of a spectrum of energy. Feminine being the absolute polarity of yin, receptivity, energy, and yang, masculine energy being the absolute peak polarity of that action-oriented penetrative force. And then there's this huge, binary in between. There's this huge spectrum of experience that is in between. And I really want to be able to widen my messaging, my gap, my clientele, my audience, and my work in that way. But recognizing that I'm always going to be really geared towards particularly female identified work, like feminine work, for those of you that identify as feminine. And so it's important for me to share a little bit about what I've experienced. And that is, when I decided to start closing out my teaching contract, if you will, with the archetype of the word witch, and I started moving closer and closer to what I think I actually really am and embody, is shamanism. I particularly downloaded Satyr, which is a Freya magic, a Viking, Nordic Scandinavian form of shamanism in 2019. And then shortly after, also downloaded a message from what I believe was a Welsh or a Scottish ancestor that wanted to be known as Cronus. And I downloaded Ellen of the Way's work. And that was 2019. It was a session of 3 nights of dreams, deep dreaming, that I would wake up and channel it all out. And that eventually became known as my Ancestral Witch program, which eventually became and is now known as the Threshold, which is the body of work that I think made me in a lot of ways who I am, which is a multifaceted astrologer. I'm not just interested in the stars. I'm also interested in how it ties us to the earth, our ancestry, and shamanic practices. So when I say all of that, what I learned though is that as I started to move into shamanism, I started getting initiated by shamanic practices, and the cleansing began and started this summer, which I was not fully prepared for. I now have a shamanic teacher who's helping me and guide me through that process, that initiatory process. But it has rendered me sick. And essentially what I have learned is that I have a gift of sin eating, which is when I channel people, I tend to also pick up everything in their field and even digest it for them if I'm not careful. So because of that, I really had to rethink and navigate how I want to work with people moving forward. And so because of that, it has, and correlating with the South Node on my sun, it is time. It is time for me to lay to rest my work with the witch wound. There's so many gifted priestesses and practitioners that are working particularly with that specific narrative. And people ask me, like, are you just like done with your practice? No, absolutely not. I'm just not trying to teach and make a living doing magic necessarily anymore. I'm moving more in the direction of channeling, coaching, et cetera, et cetera. Instead of that, I told everyone this was my last apprenticeship, and it is. This class of at Samhain of 2024 is my last apprenticeship, and I stand by that. Spirit told me in the very beginning I had 5 years of doing this work and transmitting this work, and as of November of 2024, it will exactly be 5 years of doing that work. And so this is me being in alignment and attuning myself to this higher frequency that is being called to celestial channel. That is what my guides are calling me at this point, a conduit, a channel. They want me to make space for that and to really start focusing on teaching people how to get through their deconstructions or their spiritual awakenings. So hopefully, if you're interested in hearing all of that, I actually have had a lot of people that are like, what is going on? Tell me the story, which I think is incredible that people want to hear my story. I've had people following me in my story since I started sharing it in 2015. And so if you've gotten this far and you're listening and you're, like in with me for season, what is this, like 7 of Lauren Wilde? Thank you for being with me and all these iterations and all of these changes. It's really interesting as a spiritual entrepreneur and a person that really works on helping people move through shame and condemnation, how easy it is to be a multi-passionate entrepreneur and creator and feel shame about the amounts of rebrands and shifts and changes. And it really took one of my students, actually, her name is Carrie, she's brilliant. She said to me, it seems like, you are always changing. And so we need your brand to be you, because who you are as Lauren Wilde is not changing, but the content you're teaching changes with you. And I was like, yes, Carrie. And that is the nature of the Chironic healer. We heal as we go. We share our story as we go. And so I want to wrap up, this portion of what I'm talking about here, because, it's personal to me, but a lot of people have been invested in my story and in a lot of ways see themselves in my story too. And so here's what I want to say. It is okay to start and to not know where you're going to finish. I keep coming back to, at the end of the day, like what I really am is a multi-passionate spiritual entrepreneur. But currently right now, I believe that my contract is in helping people move through their spiritual awakenings, their descent process, their ascent process. And then at some point, I really hope that Spirit has me moving in the direction of more of book writing and speaking and touring and technology development, et cetera, in a more entrepreneurial way. But right now, I do feel still called to teach and to coach and to educate and to guide people through their dark nights of the soul, all the way back through to the ascent process, bringing the boon, bringing the gift back to the town, sharing their gifts with their village, and integrating their process, I still feel very called to that work. And so this rebrand is allowing me to be more expansive. It's allowing me, because I need it, to feel not so constricted and small, but to be able to take up more space. And that's what I really need, especially, you know, with Sagittarius being my rising sign. I need to feel like I can expand. This, you know, getting in this very niche place has in a lot of ways kind of constricted me over the last year, particularly. So I wanted to share that. The big vision that I'm moving towards is very much the Empress. You know, I have spent all of 17 years, you know, in and out of a committed relationship with men trying to make marriage work. And last fall, I decided to get divorced again. And in the very beginning of 2024, I decided to move into a vow with the goddess to abstain from relationships and to be single and celibate and heal. And it has without a doubt been like I mean, it could make me just burst into tears. It's been the best thing that ever happened to me, is realizing how much healing I really, really needed and continue to need to have, and the amount of alone time that I need to heal, and what I actually want. And it's also been really cool in the process of having like a lot of potential suitors and turning them away, and recognizing how low my values and my standards were that I was accepting, and how high they are now, and that there's still opportunities at that place. It's been just really, really important with the South Node, you know, going over my Mercury and my Sun to cleanse me and to heal me and to reset me for what I believe is going to be the best decade of my life. I'm going to be 39 in September, my last year in my 30s. And I'm just really, really committed to health and security for my children, for myself, and to build this business, not just for myself, but for the priestesses that I have trained and raised up, as well as others that we may look for in the future. So thank you guys for listening to my vision cast. I didn't realize that I was even vision casting for you guys, but Spirit just told me to get on and start recording and tell you guys where I'm at, and that's where I'm at. So in regards to, you know, content and what you're going to see, I am really moving forward with being known as a feminine consciousness coach, or a spiritual awakening coach or guide. We at Wilde Spirit School are playing with this like we are now a full spectrum spiritual awakening company. We can meet you with the key to the underworld. We can meet you to the key to your fool's journey leap. We can meet you at the key to where you're looking for your guide at the challenge. We can meet you when you're building your boon and you're returning and ascending back to the village. But we are a full spectrum spiritual awakening experience company that can meet your needs where you're at and help you get all the way through your initiation back up to the top. And that is what we are really striving to build clear messaging and offerings around this fall. So if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I don't know where I'm at. I'm in the middle of a liminal space. Something in my life has closed out. You know, maybe it was a divorce, maybe you ended a job, maybe you had a baby, maybe you got married. Some sort of major life event has happened, and you didn't realize that it was an initiation, right? You didn't realize that it was a whole thing. And now you're trying to create, you know, this new life and this new identity, and this new way of existing and being in the world. But you recognize that you're still, a part of you is still holding on to the past, and you keep reduplicating exactly what you've already had, but you don't want to drag that stuff into your new life. Hit us up. That is what we are here for. Whether that is, you know, subconscious reprogramming, whether that is, you know, embodied constellations work, and if that's astrology, if that's just wisdom and discernment, we don't know, but we can help you figure it out. And so, you know, I feel very confident in my skills to do that, as well as the growing faculty that we have at Wilde Spirit School to meet you there. And so with all that being said, here's the main ways that you're going to start to hear from us, particularly me being Lauren Wilde, is we are maintaining a presence on Instagram, even though Instagram is like totally dying for small business and creatives. I mean, it really is disheartening to build a ton of content that doesn't even get seen. But we are still keeping our presence there. You can find us by looking at the links below on this podcast or the YouTube, and you can see us there. The next two ways that you're going to see us is going to be through the podcast platform and YouTube. And that's it. That's where you're going to find us: Instagram, our podcast, and YouTube. Otherwise, you'll have to join us and join the school and become a part of the inner circle. Our coven is what we call it. And so if that's something that you're interested in, please make sure you check the notes and contact us. It's wildespiritco@gmail.com. There's an E on the end of Wilde. And we will, you know, schedule you with a consult to see where you fit best. We've got lots of programs that are kicking off this fall, as well as a new one. And we'd be so excited to meet you there. In regards to what's happening, I'm in the process of training to be a good podcaster. I know how to podcast for myself because I'm pretty good at it. I really want to start interviewing people. And that is a skill that I don't have, is how to interview people and how to do the edits that are required and post and all of that. That is my goal for the fall, is to learn how to become a great podcaster. So over time, that has been a big vision. That's been a big goal that I've had for years, actually. I've just not had the skills and the time to do it. But I'm committing to doing that this fall. The next thing is you're going to see a lot of content on YouTube. So back in the day, I used to do this thing called Mystic Musings, where I would have 3 cards and I would pull cards and you could see that. That's coming back. I'm also going to be doing astrology posts all the time, like just popping on and doing astrology posts and videos. And then also there's going to be lots of different videos that I'm going to start posting on YouTube, because I am really trying to regenerate new leads, new clientele, and new students, and new visibility. And so that is what we do as entrepreneurs, right? We rebuild and we regenerate, and that is what we're doing. And so our goals are really about focusing on consciousness, particularly the feminine lens of consciousness, meaning lunar wisdom, cyclical wisdom, the wheel of the year, ancestral shamanic practices, ritual, you know, astrology. So I keep telling people, astrology is the language that I speak, and the work that I do is help analyze where people are at and help them get through and break through the challenges that they're experiencing in their everyday life and spiritual awakening experience. So hopefully that helps you guys. And hopefully this isn't too technical and too boring. But like I said, Spirit told me to put this out there. I've had so many people asking me what's going on. There's not really that much of a change. The school is still here. I'm still here. It is really and truly more of an energetic shift that is happening for me and for the school brand, as I make space for whatever this Council of 12 that I downloaded in fall of 2022. They're really making themselves present now within me. They are a council of 12 light beings that really, really, really want me to focus on channeling information about the new world, the new era, particularly from a feminine conscious lens. And that is what I'm trying to move my ego, my attachments out of the way to be in high service to, and not to keep getting sick, because that is it's not been fun to keep getting sick doing this work. And so hopefully this makes sense to you guys. We have so much content that's coming. We have so much content that's like already out there. So please make sure that you utilize that, and we can't wait. to really roll everything out and make this real and embodied. So thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to Awaken with Lauren, and I can't wait to see you in our next session. Thanks so much. Bye.